My stepmom hacked my bank account to make me pay for her son's college. But when I exposed their secrets, my dad lost everything. I was kicked out right after turning 18. Built my life from nothing. Years later, I ended up taking care of my younger brother when he went through the same hell. 8 years went by without a word from my father or his wife, until she found out I was paying for my brother's education. Then my father called, not to apologize, not to catch up, but to demand I pay for my stepbrother's college too. And that phone call opened the door to a pile of lies that had been buried for nearly a decade. My mom passed away when I was 17. Cancer. My brother Noah was 10 back then, still a kid who thought everything could be fixed if he prayed hard enough. Watching her fade over 2 years changed us completely. Dad handled it well. Handled is a strong word. He checked out emotionally somewhere around the 18-month mark, and 3 days after the funeral, I caught him on Tinder. I was literally trying to write Mom's obituary, and he was scrolling through profiles. Apparently, recently widowed and ready to mingle was his version of grief. 3 months later, he sat Noah and me down. "There's someone I want you to meet," he said. Her name was Monica. And yes, she fit every stereotype that comes with that name. Bleach blonde, fake tan, white Escalade, organic lifestyle sermons. She also had a son, Ethan, a pale, awkward 8-year-old who looked like he'd never touched sunlight. At first, Monica played her part well. She laughed at my dumb jokes, remembered Noah's favorite pizza topping, didn't instantly start redecorating the house with live laugh love signs. For a second, I thought maybe this could actually work. Maybe we'd be that wholesome, blended family sitcom where everyone hugs at the end. I couldn't have been more wrong. 6 months after Mom's death, Dad dropped the bomb over dinner. "Monica and I are getting married," he said casually, like he was announcing a dental appointment. "And Ethan's going to be your new brother." Noah just stared at me completely lost. I asked, "When's the wedding?" "Next month," Dad said. "Just family, something small." The wedding was exactly what you'd expect, tacky, rushed, and deeply uncomfortable. But the real nightmare began after they moved in. Dad still owned Mom's house, the home Noah and I grew up in. Monica took one look at it and decided it needed a woman's touch. Apparently that meant erasing every trace of my mother. First, it was small things. Mom's mugs disappeared. Her handmade throw pillows replaced with beige ones that looked like sandpaper. Her recipe box, found it in a yard sale pile. I stopped her just in time. "These are my mom's recipes," I said. Monica smiled innocently. "Oh, I just thought since I'm the one cooking now." "Yeah," I cut her off. "Don't." That box never left my room again. Then came the photos, family albums mysteriously reorganized, all pictures of Mom sealed away in attic boxes. The framed portraits on the mantel, suddenly updated, the new perfect family smiling together with Mom airbrushed out of existence. And Ethan, that kid could do no wrong. Didn't matter what he did if he failed a test, he's just creative. If he broke something, accidents happen. Meanwhile, Noah got lectured for breathing too loudly. Didn't rinse his dish, full-blown interrogation. Didn't say goodnight to Monica, disrespectful. I tried to be the buffer. When Dad skipped Noah's school events to go to Ethan's games, I went in his place. When Ethan trashed Noah's stuff, I replaced it using my hardware store paycheck. But it was like trying to plug holes in a sinking ship. Then came the house rules. Ethan got his own bathroom. Noah had to share with guests. Ethan could watch TV whenever he wanted. Noah needed permission 24 hours ahead. "Responsibility and respect," Monica would say with that smug smile. By my senior year, things reached breaking point. I was turning 18 soon, and Dad started dropping hints about becoming independent. At first, I thought it was normal parenting talk, until one night I overheard something that changed everything. I'd come home late and heard voices in the kitchen. Monica's tone was sharp. "I can't keep supporting them forever," she said. Dad sighed. "They're my kids." "And Ethan's our kid," she corrected. "You can't keep dividing resources between 3 boys when one isn't even really yours." I froze in the hallway. My dad, my own father, was quietly agreeing to push us out of our home like unwanted tenants. That night, I went upstairs to Noah's room. He looked up from his homework, instantly worried. "What's wrong?" he asked. "How do you tell a 10-year-old that his dad is planning to get rid of you both?" "Nothing, buddy," I said. "Just promise me something. No matter what happens, you can always count on me, okay?" He nodded, still confused. "Are you going somewhere?" I couldn't even answer. My 18th birthday came. Monica made dinner, Ethan's favorite meal. The cake was a cheap grocery one that said happy birthday like an afterthought. After dinner, Dad gave me a $50 card. "Son, you're a man now," he said. It's time you started your own life. What do you mean? Your mother and I always planned that when you turned 18, you'd become independent. Character building. So you're kicking me out? I'm helping you launch into adulthood. When? End of the week, he said like it was no big deal. I just stood there numb. The second I got to my room, I called my best friend Ryan. His dad, David, was basically the kind of man mine never was. Steady, kind, actually cared about kids that weren't his. When I told them what happened, David just said, "Pack your things, you're staying with us." So I did. 3 days later, I moved out. Dad helped me carry boxes to my car like he was proud of me. Monica even teared up for show, though I saw her measuring my room with a tape measure the day before. She was planning Ethan's new expanded space already. The hardest part was Noah. He stood in the driveway, trying not to cry. "It's not forever," I told him. "I'll call you every day. Will you still come to my baseball games?" "Every single one," I promised. I graduated a few months later. Dad came for pictures, smiled for the camera, but the second parents started talking about college. He was gone. Turns out, Mom's college fund for me disappeared after her medical bills, though Ethan somehow had a brand new one. So while other kids packed for dorms, I was filling job applications. It took me 4.5 years to get my degree while working 2 full-time jobs, warehouse in the morning, gas station at night. 7 days a week. Ryan went to state, lived the normal college life. We still hung out when we could, but I knew I was living in another world entirely. Eventually, I found a crappy studio apartment, 300 square feet of cracked walls and shared plumbing. But it was mine. I worked myself half to death loading trucks, dealing with angry drunks at the gas station, studying between shifts. Got robbed twice. Still never missed a single phone call to Noah. He was growing fast, too fast. But I could hear it in his voice. He was learning to survive by staying invisible. "I don't argue with Monica anymore," he said once. "It's easier." He was learning to shrink himself in his own home. Meanwhile, Ethan's life looked like a highlight reel. Private music tutors, sports camps, vacations. Monica's Facebook was full of family pictures, Noah rarely in any of them. So I started keeping records. Screenshots, receipts, text logs. Part of me knew I'd need them someday. Eventually, I saved enough for community college. Lived off dollar burgers and gas station coffee. But I kept going, every passing semester a reminder that Dad was wrong about me. When I finally graduated, David and Rebecca, Ryan's parents, showed up and cheered louder than anyone. Dad didn't even know I finished. When Noah mentioned it, Dad just said, "Good for him." That was the entire response. But honestly, I didn't need him there. I knew Mom would have been proud, and that was enough. By the time I was 25, I'd worked my way up to regional manager at a logistics company. $75,000 salary, my own office, my own team. I had a 2-bedroom apartment in a great neighborhood and a plan. Noah was turning 18 soon, and I'd been saving for years. Ease Freedom Fund, I called it. I knew Dad would pull the same "you're a man now" crap again, and I was ready. When my phone rang at 11:47 p.m. that night, I already knew. He didn't even say hello. "He did it," Noah whispered. "Same speech you got." My chest tightened. "He laughed," Noah said, and Monica was standing right behind him. Of course she was. She'd been waiting years for this moment. "You have until Sunday," Dad told him, same words he'd once told me. I didn't hesitate. "Pack your stuff, I'm coming to get you." "You don't have to." "Like hell I don't," I snapped. "You're done with that house." There was silence, then I heard him break down. For the first time since Mom's death, Noah cried. "I thought maybe it would be different," he said. "I kept my head down, I got good grades. I thought maybe he'd actually want me to stay." That was the moment everything inside me cracked. He still wanted their approval, even after all that. "Listen to me," I told him quietly. "This isn't about you, it never was. It's about him choosing someone else's family over his own." And that was the night I decided I'd stop letting them get away with it. I'd been collecting evidence for 8 years, and it was time to use it. But that Reddit is a story for another post. That night, Ryan and I took my old pickup and drove straight there. Yeah, Ryan, still my best friend even after all these years. The moment I told him what was going on, he didn't even hesitate. "Same deal as before?" he asked as we loaded up. "Exactly the same," I said. We pulled up to Dad's place around 12:30 a.m. Every light in the house was dark, except for the one shining from Noah's bedroom window. Dad's car sat crooked in the driveway, and Monica's Escalade was parked right behind it, just like always. Noah was already waiting outside, clutching 3 trash bags and a cardboard box. 7 years in that house, and everything he owned fit into the back of my truck with room left over. You sure you want to do this? Ryan asked quietly as we tied down the last bag. Once we go, there's no turning back. Noah looked back at the house just for a second, then turned to us. There's nothing left to go back to. Smart kid. Took him half the time it took me to figure that out. We drove back to my apartment without a word. I'd already set up the spare room, bed, desk, dresser, everything a high school senior could need. I'd talked to the school district about transferring his records and made sure he could finish the year without disruption. When we got home, Noah just stood there in the middle of the living room looking around like he couldn't believe it was real. Damn, he said softly, this is actually happening. Yeah, I said, it's happening. You hungry? We ended up ordering pizza at 2 in the morning, staying up until dawn, not talking about Dad or Monica or the wreck we just left behind, but about what came next. About the kind of life you can finally imagine when you're not walking on eggshells every second. The next morning, I laid down the rules, the same ones David Miller gave me back when he took me in. Stay out of trouble. Help around the place. Keep your grades up. Do that and you get to be a kid, not some overworked adult with 3 jobs before graduation like I'd been. I still want to get a job, Noah said. I want to help. You don't need to, I told him. I want to, he insisted. I've never had my own money. I want to know what that feels like. So he picked up a weekend job bussing tables at a restaurant nearby. And just like that, the years rolled by, 8 of them. 8 years without a single call, text, or letter from Dad, Monica, or Ethan. Dead silence. As if they'd been erased from the planet, and honestly, we were better for it. Noah finished high school with a 3.9 GPA and got into the state university on an academic scholarship. Not full, but close enough. I told him I'd handle the rest. You sure? He asked. College isn't cheap. Neither is therapy, I told him, and I'd rather pay for your degree than for someone to listen to your trauma later. He laughed, but I wasn't joking. Every dollar I spent on his education was my way of rejecting Dad's entire philosophy. Over those years, my career kept climbing regional manager, then district manager, and eventually VP of operations. By 30, I was earning 6 figures and had an office with a skyline view. That's when Clara came into my life. A marketing director at the firm, smart, sharp, funny, and allergic to corporate bullshit. When I told her about my family situation, she didn't try to fix it or urge me to forgive. She just said, their loss, and meant it. She adored Noah, helped him pick his classes, taught him how to drive stick, gave him dating advice. For the first time since Mom died, we felt like a real family again. Then they found out I was paying Noah's tuition. The call came on a random Monday afternoon. My assistant interrupted a client meeting. Sorry, but there's someone on the line claiming to be your stepmother. Says it's urgent. I sighed and took the call. Hello? Hi, this is Monica. How are you doing? After a few fake pleasantries, she dropped it. So I heard you're helping Noah with tuition. That's really generous. You know, Ethan's starting college this fall, and we were hoping you might be willing to help out with his tuition, too. I had to pull the phone away from my face for a second, just to laugh. Let me get this straight, I said. You want me, the son your husband kicked out 8 years ago, to pay for the college education of the kid he kept? Well, when you say it like that, how else should I say it, Monica? She launched into some sob story about money troubles, Ethan's potential, and how hard things had been. Meanwhile, I was picturing Ethan's shiny Camaro, their Disney vacations, and that brand new kitchen remodel. No, I said simply. I'm glad to support my brother's education, but I'm not paying for Ethan's. How could you be so cruel? He's your brother, too. You're being unreasonable. Click. I hung up before she could finish. I sat there in my office, staring out at the city, and started laughing again. The audacity was unbelievable, but of course, Dad called next that same day. You'll pay for Ethan's college whether you like it or not, he barked. You don't get to act superior just because you've got money now. We're still your family. Don't forget that. I hung up mid-sentence and blocked him. Within 2 days, my phone was blowing up with texts and calls from relatives I hadn't heard from since graduation. Suddenly, every aunt and cousin had an opinion. How could you be so heartless? Don't you believe in family? Your mother would have wanted you to help. My favorite came from Dad's niece, Olivia, someone who hadn't said a word to me since Mom's funeral. I can't believe you're being so petty, she wrote. Ethan didn't ask for any of this. You're successful now, why not help him? It's what your mom would have wanted. That one hit a nerve, dragging Mom into this to guilt me. So I called Uncle Frank, Dad's brother, the only one I ever trusted to tell things straight. Frank, what exactly did Dad tell you about why I left? He hesitated before answering. He said you wanted independence. Said you didn't like the house rules and left during a rebellious phase. House rules, rebellious phase, 8 years later, and everyone still believed his bullshit. And Noah? I asked. Same story. Said he followed your bad example. I hung up. My blood was boiling. Dad hadn't just rewritten the past, he'd painted himself as the poor father abandoned by 2 ungrateful sons. So I decided to fix that. I set up a family video call, invited every relative who'd been spamming me about my selfishness. 15 people joined. Since there's been a lot of confusion, I started, let me set the record straight. I told them everything. How Dad had thrown me out, how he later kicked out Noah, how we never left, we were discarded, you could hear a pin drop. For 8 years, none of you checked in, I said. Not one call, not one message asking if we were okay. But now that you want something, suddenly we're family again. Aunt Margaret tried to interject, but I kept going. Dad chose his new family and all of you stood by him. Now you're angry that I won't bankroll the golden child's tuition? Too bad. Then I ended the call and blocked every single one of them. Clara found me later in my office. Feel better? She asked. Getting there, I said. But I wasn't done. Something didn't add up. How had Monica even found out I was paying Noah's tuition? Only 4 people knew me, Clara, Noah, and my financial advisor. I called Noah. Who else knows? Nobody, he said. Why? So I started digging. Turned out one of Monica's friends, a woman named Vanessa who worked in the college's financial aid office, had looked up Noah's account, seen that his tuition was being paid by a third party and traced it back to me. That was a huge privacy violation. Illegal, actually, so I got my lawyer involved. FERPA laws are strict. Schools can lose their federal funding over stuff like this. Within a week, we had proof. Timestamps, access logs, witnesses. Vanessa had pulled Noah's records without authorization and sent details straight to Monica. When the college realized what happened, they panicked. These kinds of violations can destroy a school's reputation overnight. We settled $75,000, enough to cover Noah's remaining tuition and grad school if he wanted. Vanessa got fired and the college rolled out new privacy safeguards. Watching karma in motion felt good, but that was just the warm-up act. Remember how I work in supply chain management? It's a smaller world than people think. Reputation travels fast, especially when someone's known to be shady. Dad's plumbing company had been limping along for years. Turns out when you spend more time playing perfect suburban husband than actually running your business, things fall apart. He'd been chasing contracts with a few big construction firms, companies I had connections with. I didn't badmouth him. I didn't sabotage anything. I simply made sure people knew who they were dealing with, and in this industry, that's enough. Within 6 months, Dad couldn't land a single contract. Suppliers demanded payment up front, credit lines vanished, and the dream house had to go. He sold Mom's old place, the one Noah and I grew up in, and moved into a small rental. Half his staff quit. Ethan had to transfer to community college because the private one became unaffordable. And Monica, sweet, loyal Monica, filed for divorce 6 months after the money dried up. Apparently, her love came with a price tag. She took what was left, moved back with her parents, and started dating someone new with deeper pockets. Ethan went with her, and Dad left with nothing. No family, no money, no business. Just the same empty silence he'd given us years ago. The irony was perfect, almost poetic. Almost. By 2022, everything he'd built had collapsed. He was working as a technician for someone else, living in a dingy apartment, probably wondering where it all went wrong. I should have felt satisfied. The man who kicked out his own sons to start over got exactly what he deserved. But I had one final card to play. See, I'd been documenting everything for 8 years, every insult, every smug Facebook post, every time he paraded Ethan around like the perfect son while ignoring Noah. I had screenshots, photos, receipts, the whole history archived. Why? Because some part of me always knew this day would come. Then one Sunday night my phone rang, Dad's number. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. Hello, hey son, his voice was shaky older. I was hoping we could talk. About what? About family, about making things right. I put him on speaker so Clara could hear. She just raised an eyebrow. I know I made mistakes, he said. Things got complicated after your mother died. Maybe I didn't handle it perfectly, but we're family. That has to count for something. Complicated, I repeated. That's what you call it. I thought I was doing the right thing, he continued. Teaching you responsibility. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave a comment, hit subscribe, follow for more, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss the next one.